obviously being the official release of the 2021 Megatins. However, we're actually going to cover those cards in their own video later on this week. Instead, today we're going to take a look at a few other cards that are trending on the market. Now, with some of them, it's due to them seeing an increase in usage over in the OCG, whereas with others, it's due to the cards now seeing play over here, or certain cards not receiving reprints that we were expecting. Even though a lot of these cards are higher in price now already, it's up to you guys and whether or not you want to keep on holding the cards just in case they continue to go up, or offload them a bit early in case they fall back down. Either way, you guys should be aware of what those cards are that are trending now so that you can weigh your risks appropriately. Let's get started. Alright, so we're starting things off with a few cards that are trending because they're seeing play over in the OCG, and we're kicking things off here with Phantom Knight's Fogblade. We talked a little bit last week about Cherubini. Well, Phantom Knights have actually emerged as one of the best decks over in the OCG. It's not a pure deck that's being played, they actually make use of a couple of different engines to supplement the Phantom Knight cards, those being the Destiny Hero package with Destroy Phoenix Enforcer and the Brave Token engine, a new engine that will be coming to the TCG in the Grand Creators set, which is supposed to be released in January of 2022. Fogblade is of course a staple 3 of in the Phantom Knight strategy. Not only is it a trap version of Effect Veiler, but you can also use it to banish it from your graveyard to special summon a Phantom Knight monster from your graveyard as well, so it's an extra extender piece. Now it's currently the secret rares from Battles of Legend Relentless Revenge that are the highest in price right now, coming in at $8 to $9 a piece, and then both the Ghost from the Past Ultra Rare and the original Wing Raiders Ultra Rares that are down at $3 each. There is also a common that is worth a couple of dollars as well. Obviously, the TCG and OCG are pretty different games, so I don't know if we're going to see Phantom Knights emerge as a meta deck here. It definitely depends on the next ban list, which should incidentally be coming out in January as well. If you guys do see yourselves wanting to play Phantom Knights in the future, I would make sure that you pick up your copies of Fogblade sooner rather than later, because this is a card that has a history of spiking in price whenever the Phantom Knight engine starts to see play. Next up, let's take a look at number 80 Rhapsody in Berserk. Now this card is a generic rank 4 Xyz monster with a pretty simple effect. It allows you to detach a material from it to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, which you can do twice in the same turn, so you can use both of this card's materials for that. You can also attach it to a face-up Xyz monster to boost that monster by 1200 attack points. Now obviously, it's the first effect that is the reason for this card seeing some play. In Phantom Knights, you can summon this card using the materials that you summon back from Breaksword popping itself. Since it turns both of the level 3s into level 4s, you can then use this card to banish your opponent's Destroy Phoenix Enforcer from their graveyard so that it doesn't come back the following turn. This is pretty neat since it basically means they are forced to try and use Destroy Phoenix Enforcer's pop a little bit earlier against the Phantom Knight deck, which mitigates just how useful the card is in that matchup. Now this card isn't too crazy in terms of price yet. The super rares from back in Astral Pack 6 are at $5 each right now, and the original rares are only $1, so the card is still pretty affordable. Depending on how good Phantom Knights and Destroy Phoenix Enforcer are here, I could see this card getting as high as $10 to $12, but if Phantom Knights don't do anything, or maybe the Destiny Hero package doesn't see as much play here in the TCG as it does in the OCG because of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, I could see this card settling back down at $2 to $3. Either way, I would definitely make sure that you at least own a rare copy of this card so that you can use it if you need to. Okay, one more card from the OCG here, and this is one I never thought that I would look twice at. It is Guilty Gearfried the Magical Steel Knight. So this is actually a card from King's Court, but I think no one really cared about it because it seemed like it would never be played in anything. However, it's actually something that is being run as a super polymerization target over in the OCG. Against the Phantom Knight deck, you can use this card to get rid of Destroy Phoenix Enforcer and Utopic Draco Future, and obviously since it's super polymerization, your opponent can't chain the Destroy Phoenix Enforcer's effect, which is pretty cool because you get rid of 2 really big threats permanently from your opponent's field. Now in theory, I guess you could get rid of other warriors using this as a super poly target, but I think that those are the main things, though do keep in mind that if people see this play coming, then they might go down another line of play and try to end on a different end board to play around the super poly, so it kind of depends on how the game evolves and how players adapt. Now fortunately, this card is still really cheap. The ultras are only a couple of dollars, and the collector's rares are actually $35 now, which is up a little bit. I think I actually pulled this card from one of my boxes, and at the time it was literally worth like less than $20, so I guess it is worth a little bit more now, but it's not like this card is in super high demand or anything like that. Anyways, I think that if you don't have a copy of this card already, grabbing an ultra rare for just a couple of dollars is pretty safe, just in case it does start to see some meta play here in the TCG. Alright, so coming back to the TCG, let's briefly talk about Dragon Maid Hospitality. So this card is basically just a Monster Reborn and then potentially a Foolish Burial for the Dragon Maid deck, which is really useful because it allows you to trigger your Dragon Maid effects and get multiple bodies onto the board to make plays with. It's definitely a 3 of if you want to play pure Dragon Maid. And then even before, when Dragon Link was splashing a small Dragon Maid engine, they would run a copy of this card as well. Now Dragon Maids aren't exactly meta or part of a meta strategy anymore or anything like that, but the deck is actually much more affordable now, with Nurse and Kitchen being reprinted in Maximum Gold last year, and then Chamber Dragon Maid having a reprint coming up soon in Maximum Gold Eldorado. Obviously, there's a pretty big waifu tax associated with the archetype as well. With that, so much of the rest of the Dragon Maid core is accessible that people will naturally want to pick up the entirety of the core, and Dragon Maid Hospitality is kind of that last expensive piece that people need access to. However, despite only being a super rare, the card is quite hard to pull and has never been reprinted, and currently is all the way up at $35 for a single copy. Now, I personally am hoping that the card gets reprinted in Eldorado alongside Chamber Dragon Maid, though obviously we won't know that for a little while longer, but between Maximum Gold and then Brothers of Legend as well, I personally would err on the side of caution and offload this card if you aren't going to be using it while it's at this inflated price, because once the card gets reprinted, it will inevitably tank in price back down. Now, speaking of expected upcoming reprints, I think a lot of people, including myself, were expecting cards from the Eldritch archetype to be reprinted in the 2021 Megatins, following on the trend that the side set cards added to the card pool for the tins were all from the same set. Obviously, Konami decided to change things up this year, so even though the Adamancipators were reprinted, they instead ignored the Eldritch cards and reprinted some structure deck themes instead, which I guess is also pretty cool. However, it left us with some Eldritch cards that are a bit on the pricier side, even though they weren't necessarily short printed. Cursed Eldland is obviously one, but that card is still up at $20 or so, around the same price as it was before. However, Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine is a secret rare from Secret Slayers that wasn't short printed or anything, but is still played as a 3 of if you're running the Eldritch engine, and is currently back up to $6 for a single copy. This is the most useful of the Elixir cards, able to summon an Eldritch from your graveyard or your deck, and is typically what you want to have access to early on because it helps to get your entire Eldritch engine going. Now, to be fair, Eldritch hasn't seen very much competitive success recently, but it's still a really scary strategy to play against. They mesh well with other archetypes such as the Dogmatica or Invoked, and they're still capable of competing with other decks in the format like the Drytron or Tri-Brigades. I really hope that we'll see the rest of the Eldritch cards reprinted in Maximum Gold Eldorado, so that at least the rest of the cards can match the gold treatment that Eldritch got last year. Though Eldorado won't be coming out until November, expect the price of this card to remain steady until then, or maybe even increase if the Eldritch engine starts to see some more competitive success. Now, this is a card that I've had my eye on for the last couple of weeks. It is Lightning Storm, so I think that it was kind of like half a surprise that Lightning Storm wasn't reprinted in the Megatins, with it getting an ultra rare printing in King's Court. It really could have gone either way, especially after we saw Pot of Extravagance get 2 reprints in the same year last year. Lightning Storm is obviously a staple side deck card for a lot of strategies, just being a complete blowout card in certain situations, able to clear either all of your opponent's attack position monsters or your opponent's entire back row for free. So when the Ultras came out, they were around $40. I think people started to offload them slowly, and they went down to like almost $35 because people were afraid that it was gonna get that additional reprint in the tins and become like a $20 card. However, that didn't happen, and we just have the 2 printings of Lightning Storm now, and so people being aware of that, we're starting to see Lightning Storm creep back up in price, because to be fair, the card is still quite difficult to pull and hard to find. The ultra rares are actually now back up to $50 a piece, and the secret rares are back up to $70, which is still down from the $100 mark that they were at before King's Court came out, but up from the $55 to $60 that they had really briefly fallen to. From here, it depends entirely on Konami's time frame for reprinting this card. It could be the case that they'll reprint it in Maximum Gold Eldorado and give it that ugly yet more accessible printing, or they could hold back and not give it to us for quite a while, kind of like what they did with Ash Blossom and Infinite Impermanence, and that'll keep its price high for the next little while. Whether or not you buy this card now or hold off for the reprint is a gamble that you guys are going to have to take a look at yourselves, because no one other than Konami knows exactly when this reprint is going to be coming. Just a card to really briefly mention here, Invoked Kaliga is actually a card that some people are taking a look at. Oddly enough, it's not because of Invoked, but rather because of the Virtual World deck. This card is the fusion of choice that is being made using Muddy Muddragon and Ultimaya Zulkin as part of their new combo. It's a Floodgate monster that locks them into only one attack and then one monster effect activation per turn as well. Pretty neat card, and I guess in Virtual World, when you do have the Chuchi Pop and Crystal Wing on board, this card could be enough to seal victory for you in certain matchups. I wanted to just mention this card because I noticed that the original secret rare printings from Fusion Enforcers, which are the highest rarity, are up at $3 each, while the ultra rare reprints are still only 50 cents or so. Even before, when everything seemed to be splashing the Invoked engine everywhere, I don't think they really ever played this card, and it was only around $1 or so. I know that I definitely have a few copies of this card lying around in my bulk somewhere that I now have to go and dig up, so make sure that this is a card that you're setting aside, because with the whole Virtual World deck now being reprinted and accessible, you'll definitely find people looking to pick this card up. Last but not least, the card we're finishing off with here is Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser. Now, to be completely honest, I am not 100% sure exactly why it is that this card is currently being looked at. It has a pretty simple effect, allowing you to special summon it from your Pendulum Zone once per duel if you control no monsters. It's basically just a really free level 4 extender. Now, when I first think of this card, I think Pendulums, obviously, because it's a Pendulum card, and I remember this card being used back when Electromite was still in the game. However, I think that it is worth noting that this card could be used by any rank 4 base deck. So it could be used in Time Thieves or Raid Raptors or Exo Sisters. Those are the main ones that come to mind for right now. And obviously, I don't think Abyss Actors are going to be meta anytime soon, so I don't think that's the thing. At any rate, this card does just have the one ultra rare printing from back in the first Battles of Legends set, Light's Revenge, and it's currently a $5 card, which isn't super high, but we're more used to seeing this card at $1 or $2. If you guys do know exactly why it is that this card is getting so much attention, please do make sure that you let everyone know in the comment section down below. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. I want to really quickly mention here, roadoftheking.com. They actually provide some really interesting brief analysis of the OCG format, going over top decks and then some emerging trends. That's where I got note of the first 3 cards that I talked about today. I think they do weekly updates, so make sure that you go and check them out, because you guys do want to keep an eye on trends in the OCG, because a lot of the time that's going to affect the TCG format and market over here. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's market watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button for me. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about today, and also let me know about what other cards are trending on the market so that I can cover them in future episodes. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.